Hey folks, welcome to the lab. We have a lantern project here. This is an EMBURY number 150 Supreme. It's a little supreme, but it is quite supreme. This is a 150 with a crappy paint job, all kinds of weird anomalies in the paint. It's almost as if well, you can, let me see if I can show you here. It's almost as if there was a giant bubble under the paint and then it just kind of ran out of gas. And I think that's exactly what happened. But this is in really nice shape. I want to clean it up. I want to get this awful paint off here and make it look real nice. And make it ready to work. Here we go. We'll look it over, take it apart, and get some stripper on there. So let's see what we're dealing with here. I don't see there being a whole lot of problems with this, but I've said that before in its famous last words. But I don't think there's going to be any repairs needed to this of any kind. So let's check it out. Right. So the cap comes off just fine. Tank looks nice and clean. No, nothing in there. No extra wicks or anything. Okay, so let me get a parts bin for our little things. I know I got one down here. All right. So EMBURY number 10. Nothing at all wrong with that. Okay. Well, that is on there. That works just fine. All right, let me get this bail off, and then we're going to work on this burner. Actually, let me get some spray on it. I don't care if this gets spray all over it because we're removing the paint. Okay. Bail off. These types of bails are so nice and easy to take off. Yeah, nice. All right. Yeah, that burner is definitely fused in there. I figure out how to coax that a little bit. Let me get this globe plate out of here, get it out of the way. Gonna need it off anyway. I do apologize for you seeing my hand there. I'm trying to find an optimal camera angle so we can both see what we're working on here. You and me. Yes, well, that globe guard's a little chewed up. So we know that this burner has to go to the left and then it'll pick up. So that's obviously that if we can get some more WD in the vulnerable areas here. As I could see the little gap where that needs to turn to come out. And I'm hoping we'll get some WD to drift down into the burner. I think I'm gonna have to try a method that has worked before. I'm gonna whack this back pin here over a little bit and try to break that loose and see what happens. There we go. One little love tap. Oh, that's beautiful wick. Great. Part spin, parts and parts, and we'll get the crown off. I have a number of these EMBURY 150s, and they are a nice looking small round globe lantern, and they're nice and tough. I have one of these that's a little bit. Oh, ooh! I stabbed myself in the hand, but not the first time. But I have one of these that's obviously a little bit newer, and you could tell a difference in the construction. I mean, it could have been wartime. It could have been light on the metal. You know, you just don't know what the reasoning is. Because, I mean, you know, all these EMBURYs are vintage, man, you know. Okay. Jesus, even paint underneath there. No, this can't be original paint. Can't be. Judged by all these weird bubbles and stuff. And painted over things. But maybe it was red. Maybe it was another red. I'll see when I put stripper on. I think I'll be able to tell if there's a different color red under there. But this is like a terracotta. And I can see there's some fish eyes from probably, yep, and some runs. So probably from a greasy surface before they painted it. And these EMBURYs have such great metal on them, a nice dark steel. All right, so let's go get this paint off so we can start making this baby look nice. This won't be too tough a job, I don't think, unless the paint is really pesky. There's a couple crazy rusty parts. Not crazy. Well, believe me, I've seen a lot worse, but crazy as in, why is it so rusty for this, but when the rest of it's not? All right, I'm gonna go get the paint off this, so you don't have to be there to see that. All right, well, we have got a change of plans. I've been scrubbing on this thing for like an hour and a half. 3 scrubbing sessions, 2 layers of paint stripper and easy off. And this is all I got. And it appears to be multiple layers. Like there's like a burgundy or a darker red underneath. I don't know, but this is just tons more scrubbing than I'm willing to do today. But what's going to happen with this, like I said earlier, I have a number of these 150s. And I realized it could use some parts to be complete. I have had this thing for quite a long time, this other one. And it's just been on the shelf incomplete. I'll show it to you. It's dusty, but it's a beauty. The metal is just in beautiful shape. My shop here is a very dusty place because of the table grinder, which I use constantly. So, this baby is in beautiful shape. It needs a crown. This has a crown, which, by the way, it's in there with its 4th layer of paint strip around to try to clean that up. I'm going to put that baby on here. Also, I have an EMBURY air pilot, needs a cap, so it's going to sacrifice a cap. And I do know that the glow plate was heavily chewed, so I would have been disappointed in that. But this isn't going. I mean, this isn't going anywhere. This is staying for parts, and I very well may find something that has big old holes in the fount and has parts to give up, but that's the way it kind of works, you know, with refurbishing old things. You keep acquiring things for parts and other parts to swap with other parts, kind of like, you know, when I was a kid with a '74 Chevy. So that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna go finish up cleaning up that, getting the paint off that crown. We can get that baby on here, and then we'll clean up the cap, and we'll call it a day for this. And it's the first for me on this channel is stopping a project. I mean, I've stopped them, you know, to go to bed and to eat and things like that. But I mean, this isn't over. Don't worry, poor little Supreme will be all right. So, okay. And I can see, because this one has been on the shelf for quite a while, and I'm seeing some oxidation. This was back when I was treating with WD-40. So what we're going to do, while paint strapper is going on that crown, I'll take some parts off this thing. Well, I'm not going to take all the parts off, but we'll take it off, and maybe we'll do a little steel woolen, and then I'll do an oil treatment on it and seal that in, because it's normally pretty darn humid here in New York, especially in the summers, but I like to protect it from more flash rust like that. So that's what we're going to do. What do you say, folks? Like I said, it's the first for my channel and here at the lab to do it that way, but this is just a bear. And I was in the restaurant business for nearly 35 years. I did my share of scrubbing, and I'm pretty good at scrubbing. This had me, you know, questioning whether I want to continue, and I questioned it, and I said, you know what, I'm not going to do it. All right, so I'm gonna partially reassemble so all the parts stay together, and I know where to find them all. Where's that little doodad? So I was just back there, you know, and I was putting another layer of Easy Off on the crown and filler cap, and I could see the depth of the paint through some of the areas where I had, you can see it here, just the depth of the paint between steel and where I started. Ridiculous amounts of paint. So I'm thinking this was probably oil-based paint, and this was probably a big bubble. I don't know why the bubble would have been on there, but actually I'm not gonna put this stuff back in because there's water all around in there, and this tank's in nice shape. So, all right. So by the way, I brought a part from the parts box into, I'm like, this is a new thing, a stripper. Maybe there's something wrong with the stripper because it was 20% off. How weird. And it one coat took this stuff right off. I mean, it's not all up there. I didn't try hard, but I'm like, that affirms that the stripper does indeed work. So that's for that's a spare for a traffic guard. All right, so we'll put notice them now. All right, so this is gonna go to parts, and I'll make sure I'm gonna leave this somewhere where it'll just drip out all its remaining water. And then we'll get to this little Supreme here. Okay, so that's, oh yeah, and ooh, man, good spring power there. And of course, I don't have my lift ring on top of the crown to lift that up. And I do have an EMBURY number 10 in the donor. I'm gonna call it a donor now. To plop in here. So that's great. All right, so I immediately see some flash rust on here. It's just a little bit. Just a little bit. So some steel wool will bring this back. And then I see some on a globe guard here. Wow, that's pretty heavy, man. That's heavy, bro. But an easy fix. You can see just how great the EMBURY steel is that's underneath paint and things like that. And there's another one of these 150s I have, another one that is a future project, and it's bare metal. It may have been from wartime, because maybe there was like a paint shortage. They didn't paint stuff. So that'll be a future project, and there will be no paint stripper involved with that project, which is a delight. If I can eliminate paint removal, that's great. I might as well just give this whole thing just a quick once over. So I had started, when I started doing these renovations, I had started with WD-40 for a treatment. And I have nothing bad to say about WD, it's good stuff. But I did see a lot of stuff flash rust almost immediately. You know what I could have done? I could have just cut this video so it cuts right to me doing this right now and make you think that it's the other one. Hey, look how much the paint came off so easy. Look at that. But I wouldn't do that to you folks. Well, I'll be glad to be able to put this example of a 150 out with my other lanterns, because this is a beautiful example of an EMBURY 150. All right, and there's number 10. We could plop in there. I'll go wash that up. Okay, that doesn't really need anything else. Don't need any Dremel, no nothing. So we'll just go right to, oh yeah, we'll go right to treating it with my mixture of linseed oil and with just a little bit of kerosene in it. That should take care of this beauty until, or at least through the winter, until it starts getting humid again. Oh, and we can use the wick from the donor as well. All right. Nothing else to do except treat. So let me clean up this steel wool dust and go check on the parts in the sink, and we'll treat with some oil. Well, boy, oh boy. It was a lot of work just to get this to this point. And you can still see the depth of the paint. This is the worst paint I've ever had to deal with here in a lab, or ever. I mean, I don't know if it was like, you know, some kind of baked on. I don't know. Why would they do something different to this one and not anything else I've ever dealt with? I just don't know. Oh, I see more. See more flash rust in there. That's probably because I reassembled it while it was still wet and it just sat there. I'll fix that. I'll fix that before we treat. Now I'm going to go to the big wheel with these and clean them up. And, well, nah. Maybe I'll switch that out. Use this one on the donor, or on the other one that needs. We'll see. Okay, let's do the big wheel. I'll be right back. All right, so that came out pretty good, and I still didn't get all of it up there. Man, that's some pesky stuff. Okay, so I'll Dremel these bits up here, trying to get the last of that off around the corners and up in there and stuff like that. And then I'll fix this little oxidation problem here. We'll treat it with oil and reassemble. Okay. Well, I'm just now remembering a bad paint job. It was on a Beacon. Very pesky, very old, beat up, rusty, beat up paint. And this little area here reminded me, because I went straight to the wheel after trying so hard on the paint, and all the red dust filled my entire house. Everything in here is coated with it. And that just, that just made me remember that. Awful red paint. Beacon is a Canadian-made lantern. All right, wonder if I could put a little bit of a polish on that. Notice how pitted that is. You know, and this is, I mean, you look at the texture of that Embury steel there, and this Embury steel, and that's pitted. So maybe this thing was painted coats and coats over, you know, a textured kind of oxidized rusty surface, and that just grabbed that paint so well, and it's not giving it up. I don't know. Just a little tap-taparoo. Okay. That's better, because you don't want to pound. So if you have like a dent here in the middle, you're not going to, with this in it, you're not going to do that. You would want to take this out first, because then you're going to put a dent in there the shape of this. I've done it. And it's debilitating, especially when you're like right near the end of a nice project and then you screw up the crown. But I'm not going to do anything else to this. That's just fine. So I'm going to put the mildest nylon bit. I think this is an 800 grit equivalent. And I'll put that down in the burner seat there. Clean that up a little bit. I am still seeing red paint from a different angle. I am still seeing red paint on that crown. It's in the pitting. It's in the pitting. It's in the pitting. Let's see what I can do. That's better. That's better. All right. Now, so this is, that's cleaned up. That's cleaned up. Now I'm going to steel wool these parts. And then we'll get to treating. Maybe. Whoops. Forgot I had you on Zoom. No pun intended. Yeah, the oil treatment's gonna wake this up nicely, and it'll match nicely with the body here. So while I am cleaning this steel wool dust up, and it made me think of something. You know, I steel wool before I treat with oil pretty much every single time. Maybe I'm leaving steel wool dust here on the cutting board and on the lantern, which may be what's flash rusting all over my lanterns. Could it be steel wool dust? It just kind of, it rusts and then it spreads its little oxidation and sort of rustiness into that little spot. I don't know. Interesting thought though, right? I don't know. I don't have many of those. So with that being said, right. All right. So I'll treat this before I put it on. Why not? Because that's where we're at. I kind of want to look at it before I put it on. Changed its attitude, didn't it? I just went into the other room to get the air pilot that is in need of filler cap. Thought I'd bring it in here and show it to you and show you it's receiving its part, its transplant. And I noticed it as well. It's got some fresh oxidation all over it. Not all over it, but there's definitely spots where it creeped out. So I may have to do an overhaul session. That'll be something to do in the middle of winter when I'm socked in here. I got plenty of kerosene and lanterns to keep things bright and warm in here. Those lanterns, I'm telling you, they throw off some heat. Even this supervisor baby there. Throw some heat, man, for a little thing. Yeah, this was on an obscure shelf. Kind of like the island for Misfit Toys. And I kept forgetting that it's sitting there waiting on a crown so it can go live with the other toys. that. This area here, the seat for the burner here, it must be categorically, I don't know what word I want to use, vulnerable to rusting shut. Because while I was waiting on the stripper to work, I just happened to go around and look at the other couple that are future projects and a couple that I have on shelves, other number 150s. And ones I hadn't touched yet, and all the burners were frozen in. So must be something that happens when they're neglected. Okay, I don't need to do the burner. All right, let's find a good towel to wipe this off with. All right. So, while I got you at this angle, why don't we put the crown on? There we go. One, two. Come on, number 3. Where are you at? There. All right, we are on and we are tight. We get our trusty, oh boy. Okay. Let's take a little hammer to those. Soft tip hammer. You kind of want to go opposite, kind of like torquing lug nuts, you know what I mean? Boom. All right, so while I have my trusty chopstick, gonna use that to get in the corners that I couldn't get to with my big old hands, like back behind there and in there. And again, I'm not overly worried about it staying in the corners, because that's where trouble happens. It's just aesthetics. I hate looking at it and go, oh, geez, there's a wet spot there in the corner. It's going to bother me if I leave it like that. So that's what I'm doing. And these holes here. Got to get through the holes. Those are tough spots to deal with. Okay. Down behind there a little bit. in there. Gonna use the donors wick. Beautiful. And this wasn't in the sink, so I don't have to worry about leaving the fount open. Bada boom. Oh, I forgot the globe. There we go. All right, nothing else to do here, but okay. There. Now we have a fully assembled 150, thanks to a donor cap and a donor globe. This is great. Of course, I could tell the difference between that steel and that, because that's had a rougher life than this. But at first glance, without 18 light bulbs on it, you would never notice. Oh, give that one more tap there. All right. So here is our donor. You can appreciate the size. Look at that oxidation, man. Look at that. That's crazy. Let's take a look here. See all that in there? See all that here? See that there? Wow. I didn't notice. It was in a dark corner. Didn't notice. Look at that. Man, well, it won't take long to clean that up, but this was really quite heavily destroyed. I don't know if you can see the dome there. The dome was beat up. That whole mechanism here, the burner, I mean, this whole, this was a mess. This was an absolute mess, this air pilot. And there's video for this. I have a couple of videos for EMBURY air pilot. This was the latest one. And this thing was a real mess. And, you know, like all these areas here were just rusted like crazy. And it's still cleaned up. Really nice. It's too bad I can't get the burner and the globe plate from the Little Supreme, but I can't. So this here matches great because it's all pitted and beat up. Look at that. Good match. Now, as you can see how pitted that is. I mean, this was just horribly rusty, but I was able to get it presentable to a point where, oh yeah, that's right. I'm remembering now. This is a burner off a D-Light. See the wings on here? The wing tabs? But cool thing between Dietz and EMBURY, there are interchangeable parts. And that'll work. Yeah. So, okay, good. So I'll clean this up, and this goes on the shelf. I think maybe I'll stick around after you guys leave and clean this up, treat these parts. Maybe I can find this thing a new home. So air pilot isn't the meaning for our video here, but I'm going to leave this in the lab now. This was in my living room. This is going to stay in the lab now so I can kind of fix her up. And I see that it's sitting. Oh, okay. Yeah, don't get me. I'm going to keep looking at it. All right. So, EMBURY number 50, Little Supreme. Not the one we started with, but it's the one we finished. And I think it looks great. So let's take a look at it. So, there we go. I know you didn't see any of the restoration on this, but you can go see the video. So, there. Yeah, great. It's solid now. Now I can come play with the other toys. Good. Great. Folks, thank you so much for hanging out with me on this very rainy, ugly Saturday evening. And I'm going to hit the flea markets in the morning looking for stuff. I enjoy that. It's great exercise for me. And it's great for my hobby. And I need some more peaches. I'm out of peaches. So, folks, thank you so much for coming to the lab and hanging around to work on these EMBURYs. And we looked at 3 EMBURYs. And this, I'm kind of in the mood for EMBURYs because you look back a couple videos when I went out to the EMBURY manufacturing plant and did some research in the town of Warsaw where EMBURY was located until like 1953. That's when they stopped making lanterns. So all the lanterns you see on here that are EMBURYs are at least that old. So, all right, folks, thank you so much for stopping by. And as usual, don't you go changing.